Another big issue in the area of law and justice is how race and class may enter into the decision to stop and check, and sometimes frisk, different people of different classes or racial groups. Racial profiling is the practice of singling out certain individuals on the basis of their race, based on stereotypes about their race. It's most commonly seen in traffic stops, though it can occur on the street in a stop and question or even stop and frisk kind of encounter. One of the most expansive studies of racial profiling is the Engel and Calnon 2004 study, which reviewed over 1 million cases where they found that 70% of white drivers searched had drugs or weapons, 9% of Latino drivers had drugs or weapons, and 7% of black drivers had drugs or weapons. So the statistics show us that racial profiling, on the basis of who actually has illegal contraband, is probably very counterproductive. Yet it's still practiced, most likely due to internal or implicit biases of the officers who are making the decisions to stop. As of the second edition of the text, Newman indicates that 26 states allow racial profiling as basis for stops. There have been efforts to introduce and pass federal laws to end racial profiling, and a bill introduced in 2007 called the End Racial Profiling Act was introduced but not passed. I do think it's important to know that Kentucky was the first state in the nation to pass a law that would help to prevent racial profiling, called the LawJustice Act. It was passed in 1998. Senator Gerald Neal from Louisville sponsored the bill in Kentucky and garnered the support that it needed in the Kentucky House and Senate for it to pass. When you start to think statistically about the cost of crime to society as a whole, you start to think a little differently about class and crime. The cost to society by questionable business practices in regards to the number of lives lost is much higher than the number of lives lost to street crimes. In essence, lower-class street crime costs the U.S. less than white-collar crime. Using Newman's statistics from 2008, 16,000 Americans were murdered. In contrast, on average, 56,000 Americans die each year from on-the-job or occupational illnesses such as black lung or asbestosis, preventable deaths due mostly to corporate negligence.